Most of you probably know Rudolph the Rankin and Bass animated classic, but did you know in the late 90s someone tried to make a Rudolph Disney-esque animated musical? Goodtimes in the 90s had a reputation for making cheap Disney knockoffs, so when Hercules or Mulan were in theaters, you could find a Goodtimes cheap knockoff at your local Family Dollar or Dollar General. But it was like at some point Goodtimes wanted to get into the animation game themselves, so in the late 90s, 1998, they released Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the movie. Now, the reason I'm stressing the movie is because it was a great marketing gimmick. I remember for some reason, I have no clue why, it's just one of those things you remember from your childhood and you wonder, why do I remember that? But when I was just a really little boy, 98, I was at this event and there was a friend of mine, her mom was doing something and they were talking about Rudolph. And a guy walks up, says to this mom, "So, have you guys seen Rudolph the movie?" And she says, "Yeah, of course, we watch Rudolph on CBS every year." And he goes, "Right, but have you seen Rudolph the movie?" And it was just so funny, even as a kid, even as a little kid, I remember that thinking, just the pride, the I don't know how to describe it, him going, "the movie," as if that somehow elevated this above the Rankin and Bass classic. But I'm sure other parents felt that way as well. The marketing for this film was centered around the fact that this wasn't just Rudolph, it was Rudolph the movie. But how is this movie? Well, it's not too bad. It's not great, but it's nothing like what it aspires to be, but it's okay. Right off the bat, the animation is its biggest problem. This film is very low budget. I'm surprised it was released in theaters. When you consider 98 was the year of Mulan, The Prince of Egypt, Ants, A Bug's Life. And then you look at this film, it's like, okay, why would... I don't... unless it was just a kind of a pride thing, like, okay, we want ours to be a major motion picture, so we're going to release this in theaters. I don't see why someone thought this would fly. I mean, even like one of the lesser films of 98, like Quest for Camelot, still that film's animation was head and shoulders above what we see in this film. Another thing that comes to my mind is I love celebrity voices as much as the next person, but some of these voices and some of these characters could have been cut and increased that animation budget. Did we really need Richard Simmons in a role? That money could have gone to, to make certain scenes look a little bit better. Did we really need the sprites to narrate this thing? No. That right there, you can cut those, like 4 or 5 characters, put that money toward making certain shots look better. And I will say, Whoopi Goldberg as the villain, John Goodman as Santa, they do add something to this. John Goodman as Santa, you don't get much better casting. He's great here. When he sings a song, that was the first point where I'm like, I really am kind of getting into it, like, that's not bad at all. Speaking of the songs, all of the songs here have a great idea behind them. You have an opening number called What About That Nose? It's like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, the song Belle from Beauty and the Beast, where the whole town is singing, well, Rudolph's great, he's intelligent, he's handsome and all this, but what about that nose? That's a great idea for a song, very reminiscent of the musical number Belle from Beauty and the Beast. But the lyrics are just not there. You have the romantic song, Show Me the Light. Kind of cheesy, but this being a movie about Rudolph, it works. But the song doesn't quite reach the heights it needs to. You have the sidekick song, Things Could Always Be Worse. Boy, that's a great thing to teach kids. Yeah, look on the bright side, things could always be worse. But the lyrics, a lot of these songs, they seem like they were written very quickly. The movie also throws in a couple of Christmas standards like Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time. But the main problem with the film always goes back to the animation. The animation is so low budget. At one point, there's a choir of elves and reindeer singing, and they are literally moving like this. It's clear that they had no clue what song was going to go into those mouths, or how to animate, so it actually looks like they're singing instead of just like a nutcracker with their mouth moving up and down. I understand that not every film can look like The Prince of Egypt. I get that. That's understandable. But when you say, here's a theatrical film, you expect a little bit higher quality animation. It's funny because I was huge into movies, even as a kid in 98. Even as a little kid in 98, I was huge in movies. My dad took me all the time, and I never once saw a trailer for this, so I'm not quite sure how long it was in theaters. Again, all I remember, it had a big promotional push through Walmart, and then very shortly afterward you could watch it on a channel like UPN, if any of you remember that. It would just play randomly on some weekend afternoon. The overall story is, it's not great. I mean, it's just a variation on the story you saw from the Rankin and Bass special. There are no Misfit Toys, unfortunately. There's a polar bear, a fox, and they're humorous enough, but they're not up to the standard of the classic Disney sidekicks. I will say, going into spoilers, there is kind of something a little bit funny. At the end, we're so used to seeing the villain fall in Disney movies, and there's an opportunity for that to happen. It doesn't happen. Instead, Rudolph makes a wish that has all the other characters kind of scratching their heads like, Rudolph, what, really? You're making that wish? I won't spoil it. But it's kind of funny. It was a little bit funny that seeing his friends' reactions to this very, very innocent wish he makes. But overall, I would give Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the movie, 1.5 out of 4 stars. If you have to choose, definitely stick with the Rankin and Bass Christmas special. That's the one to watch. But if you do happen to somehow see this, which I don't even know how. It's not streaming. As far as I know, it may be on TV somewhere. It may be on one of the free streamers. I don't know. But if you do happen to come across this, your kid wants to watch it. It's not just overbearingly awful, but it is not as good as the Rankin and Bass special, of course. If you enjoyed this review, please click like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link in the description. Until next time, this has been Josh with Movies Please. Thanks for watching.